Hello, and welcome to In Their Own Words, the story of the American experiment in the words of the people who made it happen. Hi, I'm Pete Fenzel, your host, and we're delighted that you chose to spend some time with us today. Today's episode is a story about the luckiest man on the face of the earth. It's a tragedy, but like all good tragedies, it tells us an awful lot about ourselves and in a way that we respond to it. And the protagonist in this story is Lou Gehrig, the great first baseman of the New York Yankees back in the 1920s and 1930s. Now, Lou came from a very poor family. He was born in 1903. His parents were immigrants from Germany, and they were common folk. They had to struggle hard and work really hard to make ends meet. And they worked especially hard to help give Lou an education, so he attended Columbia University and then was scouted there by the Yankees. What he's really known most for is his consecutive game streak. Lou played 2,130 games without taking a break. This is an incredible achievement, and he earned him the moniker the Iron Man because he was in there every single game. When you think about the 17 bones that he broke in his hands and still played first base with broken fingers, you can understand just how hard this was, how determined he was, and what a hard worker Lou Gehrig showed himself to be, and the people loved him for it. And so he played first base every single game, despite the broken bones, despite 2 concussions, despite all the things that we go through in life that make us want to take a day off. Lou saw it through. He took over from Wally Pipp at first base on June 1st, 1925, and would play every Yankee game until May 2nd, 1939. Now, he didn't just show up. He was superb during this time for his entire career. He was a superstar and an incredible athlete. His lifetime batting average was .340. He hit almost 500 home runs in the process. And he was the cleanup batter in Murderer's Row for the 1927 Yankees, with the Babe batting third. Gehrig won Most Valuable Player award twice, once in 1927 and then again in 1936, and was the runner-up in 1931 and 1932. He was an incredible player who played his heart out every day, and in this way exemplified the American spirit. But tragedy struck Lou long into his career. He was showing signs of something being wrong at the end of the 1938 season. And in the 1939 season, he only played 8 games. And in those 8 games, he only batted .143 and had made 2 errors. But his play was even worse than the statistics showed them to be. And so Lou went and got a battery of tests done by his doctors, and the news that he received couldn't have been worse. Lou was suffering from a degenerative, progressive, and fatal disease. It's a disease that kills the nerve cells so that one loses all control of one's muscles and eventually dies from it. Now, when the Yankees found out about this, it wasn't long before the word went public. And so they decided to have a Lou Gehrig Day at Yankke Stadium on the 4th of July of 1939, not so long after Lou discovered his diagnosis. Well, of course, that day everybody gave all sorts of great speeches about him, praised him to the heights, gave him trophies and presents and flowers And then it was time for Lou to make his remarks. Well, for some reason, they did not record all of Lou's comments, and it was not a very long talk. But they recorded the first few comments and then the last comment, but didn't record in between. And the newspapers did not report the entire speech. They only had snippets of his speech, which was very odd. Perhaps the men were crying. That's the one explanation that we've heard circulated, that the men were too choked up by the experience of Lou, showing so much courage in his farewell talk, that they just could not see their writing pads through their tears. Well, whatever the reason might be, we have the audio of the beginning of Lou's farewell talk and the end. And so what I'd like to do is to play for you the beginning of Lou's talk. And I'll fill in the words that we've kind of accumulated from different newspaper accounts to try to get the flavor of the entire talk, and then the recording from the end of his talk so you can get the complete picture. So here we go.
For the past 2 weeks, you've been reading about a bad brag. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I've been in ballparks for 17 years and have never received anything but kindness and encouragement from you fans. When you look around, wouldn't you consider it a privilege to associate yourself with such fine-looking men as are standing in uniform in this ballpark today? Sure, I'm lucky. Who wouldn't consider it an honor to have known Jacob Ruppert? Also, the builder of baseball's greatest empire, Ed Barrow. To have spent 6 years with that wonderful little fellow, Miller Huggins. Then to have spent the next 9 years with that outstanding leader, that smart student of psychology, the best manager in baseball today, Joe McCarthy. Sure, I'm lucky. When the New York Giants, a team you would give your right arm to beat, and vice versa, sends you a gift, that's something. When everybody down to the groundskeepers and those boys in the white coats remember you with trophies, that's something. When you have a wonderful mother-in-law who takes sides with you and squabbles with her own daughter, that's something. When you have a father and a mother who work all their lives so you can have an education and build your body, it's a blessing. When you have a wife who has been a tower of strength and shown more courage than you dreamed existed, that's the finest I know.
That I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. Thank you.
It's how Lou said goodbye in his farewell speech, without one single word of self-pity, but only with gratitude and grace that touched the American people then and still touches us now. Less than 2 months after Lou Gehrig spoke at Yankke Stadium and gave his farewell to baseball and the people, the Nazis invaded Poland and World War II began. And that American character we talked about earlier of perseverance and courage and hard work was put on display in a great way by the American men of that era, who because of that quality became known as the greatest generation. More than 80 years after his death, The luckiest man speech at Yankee Stadium resonates powerfully in the American heart. So I suppose the American character really hasn't changed all that much since then. So for you younger Americans, know this: you are stronger than you think you are. You can bear more than you think you can. You are braver than you think you are. And you can work harder than you think you can. After all, as Lou Gehrig said, you have a lot to live for. Thank you for watching. I'm Pete Fenzel, and this has been In Their Own Words. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked it, would you please give us a thumbs up on YouTube, share it with everyone you know, and subscribe to our channel. It helps us to get the word out to everybody as much as possible. And so, thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye for now, and God bless you.